delaying the onset of the southern sector minor planting season. The livelihoods, investment, and incomes of over 980,000 farmers cultivating an estimated 1.8 million hectares are at risk. And the ripple effects on agricultural value chain actors such as the farmhands, aggregators, processors, traders, transporters, and on food supply could be felt across the entire country. We fully understand the immense pressure this situation places on farmers, value chain actors, and our food system. And I'm here to outline the steps we are taking to support farmers' livelihoods, ensure the adequacy of food supply, as well as steps MOFA is taking to avoid a recurrence in the future. Before I delve into the details of the situation, let me give a brief update on the progress made so far on our program for achieving food security and resilience. That is the Planting for Food and Jobs 2.0. And also to assure the nation that the measures we are putting in place will mitigate any potential adverse effect on the dry spell on farmers and on our food systems. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture designed and rolled out a 5-year master plan for food security and resilience, Planting for Food and Jobs Phase 2, in August 2023. The master plan targets self-sufficiency in the production of 10 crops and poultry over the period. To ensure a seamless integration of all actors for effective delivery of all interventions under the Planting for Food and Jobs Phase 2, the ministry completed the development of an integrated digital solutions platform known as the Ghana Agriculture and Agribusiness Platform, GAP. The GAP has enabled the ministry to identify and register 553,955 farmers out of the target 1.2 million farmers for 2024. The registration is still ongoing. 55 private sector aggregators, 31 input dealers, 38 off-takers, and 22 service providers have also been registered on the platform. In 2023, we were able to achieve our production targets for grains, vegetables, and tubers, except for poultry, whose achievement fell short by a target of 15%. That is 19,816 metric tons as against 23,250 metric tons. The specific gross production volumes and achievement rates compared to our targets for the crops are as follows. Maize, 3.6 million, that is 103%. Sorghum, 439,000, 99.6%. Soya, 343,000, 117%. Paddy rice, 1.4 million, 99.64%. Cassava, 27.8 million, 102%. Yam, 11,474,000 sufficiency. Onion, 189,000, 58% self-sufficiency. Cassava, 23 million, 126% self-sufficiency. Yam, 10.5 million, 115% self-sufficiency. Plantain, 5.7 million, which will bring us to 124,000 self-sufficiency. To achieve these targets, the ministry implemented a number of interventions, amongst them the distribution of high-quality agro inputs, land development, and irrigation development. Under 0.3 million kilograms of maize seeds, 10 procurement processes have also commenced for the construction of 13 irrigation facilities, which will add 15,500 hectares of an area of 605 hectares, are also currently in progress in the northern, upper east, and upper west regions. These irrigation schemes are complemented with the construction of 500 boreholes for solar pump irrigation systems and the procurement of 1,000 pumps for water extraction for vegetable production. When completed, these additional schemes will enable the irrigation of 6,250 hectares of farmland for all year-round vegetable farming. The ministry has also engaged the services of contractors to develop 14,150 hectares, 44,000 metric tons of maize per annum to our national production. On post-harvest infrastructure, to address the perennial problem of post-harvest losses, the construction of rainfall has been unreliable, and the amount of rainfall recorded this season has been lower compared to that of last year. This situation prevented some farmers from preparing their farmlands for production, while those who were able to prepare their land could not sow due to the absence of moisture. The farmers who took advantage of the early rains in June have experienced severe water stress on their farms. Most of the crops, especially maize and groundnut, have reached their critical wilting points. Let me take you through the weather situation using 3 selected regions as case studies. The Upper West region. This graph on your screen illustrates a stark contrast in rainfall between 2023 and 2024 from June to mid-August. 2023 saw significantly higher rainfall with a pronounced peak in early August. In contrast, in 2024, experienced considerable lower rainfall throughout this period, indicating a potential drought or significantly higher drier conditions this year. This drastic decrease in rainfall could have severe implications for agriculture and water resources. You will see on the graph that in 2024, we received 575 millimeters of rainfall as compared to a decreased vegetation moisture. The extensive brown and yellow areas highlight is from 2022, which is at the bottom of Upper West, Upper East, and the same on top, showing the severe stress and the lack of moisture. The final image is data from Ignitia, which is the next image. This data from Ignitia from 13th to 20th August, 7 days, shows rainfall experienced in the whole country and the sub-region. The dark red means greater than 100 millimeters, yellow 30 millimeters, and green 10 millimeters. The oval marking indicates areas where almost no rainfall has been observed, indicative also of the past month. Information from Ignitia, sourced from Agromite, indicates a heavy rainfall, and this is the rainfall situation or the outlook. Ignitia's report, as sourced from Agromite, indicates a heavy rainfall passing through on the 20th of August. This resulted in large volumes in several locations in Tamale, Bole, Wa, Navrungu, Yendi, and most of the Savannah and northern regions, and also benefited from this rain. Now, this is good news. The 20th August rain event is expected to mark the beginning of more plentiful rains in the central and northern parts of Ghana. The end of the season is expected in mid to late October for extreme north and middle of November for central Ghana, with coastal Ghana set for dry season in December. The outlook for the next 4 weeks. Sufficient amount of rain for crop growth is expected over the next 2 weeks across the northern half of Ghana, and the rainfall distribution is also marginally conducive for planting a little further south in Bono East, Ahafo, northern half of Ashanti and Oti regions. In about 2 weeks' time, all regions except the coastal regions are expected to receive adequate rainfall volumes. The outlook from September to December marks September 1, or the month of September, marks the beginning of the second rainy season in the south of Ghana. As rains start to contract towards the coast, this means that most of the southern Ghana should be able to see sufficient amounts of rain to support crop growth. Rainfall will hence become more frequent and abundant throughout the country during September, before the dry season starts setting in around mid to late October in northern Ghana, mid-November for southern half, with the exception of the coastal areas in the northern regions where the dry season is expected only in December. Now, the effects of the dry spell. Preliminary reports indicate that about 928,523 farmers cropping 1.8,557,000 hectares are at risk. And I'm talking about those at risk. These farmers will lose an estimated investment of 7.4 billion cedis if there is total crop failure. The 928,523 farmers cropping 1.8,507,000 hectares, those at risk, they will lose an estimated investment of 7.4 billion if there is total crop failure. The corresponding revenue loss is estimated at 22.2 billion. So the investment is what they put in seeds, in inputs, fertilizers, farm hands, and all that they put into crop. That is 7 billion. The revenue is the sales, what they will derive from the investment that they will make. And that is estimated at 22 billion, representing 10% of agriculture GDP, which in itself is about 220 billion. As at 20th August, 435,872 farmers cultivating an estimated area of 871,000 hectares have been directly affected. So earlier on, I talked about those at risk being 928,523. The 435,872 are those that have been confirmed as affected as at 20th August, and the audit is still ongoing. Maize, rice, groundnut, soya bean, sorghum, millet, and yam are the most widely affected crops across these regions. The affected farmers have lost an estimated investment of 3.5 billion with a corresponding potential revenue of 10.4 billion. So of those affected, not the entire at risk that I mentioned have lost 22 billion. The confirmed affected, they have lost an investment of 3.5 billion and the corresponding potential revenue of 10.4 billion. These drought conditions have far-reaching implications for food security and livelihoods, with the following notable consequences. Food shortage. The affected regions contribute about 62% of the country's grain supply. The affected regions, they contribute about 62% of the country's grain supply. However, from September to December and maybe January, February of the following year, which coincides with the minor season of the southern sector, these regions contribute about 85% of our grain supply. So that whole 12 months, they contribute 62, southern sector, major and minor production. The northern zone, they have only one cropping season, and that is their major season. And that harvest comes in from our 20th of September. So from that September to December, they contribute about 85% 5% of our national grain supply. But if you put all together in a year, they contribute 62% of our grain supply. Given the projected crop failure, we are forecasting a significant shortfall in grain availability. Now, without any interventions, this could lead to nationwide food shortage and its resultant implications. Another effect that we're very concerned about is the loss of farmer investment. It is estimated that the farmers affected and confirmed have lost a significant amount of investment, 3.5 billion I mentioned earlier. With this level of damage experienced and the estimates coming in, the ministry believes that it will have to write off over 90% of the total expected production. So for those that are affected, we have to write off about 90% of their total production, which means that we are writing off their investment effectively. There, of course, I have mentioned that there will be a decline in agricultural GDP. The estimated production losses will lead to about a 10% decline in agricultural GDP. The northern regions are located in and feel a sense of hopelessness in the absence of any interventions from government. In response to the phenomenon, the government is taking immediate actions to address the situation. In the medium to long term, government expects the sector to develop resilience to these climatic conditions as it rolls out more irrigation and water management schemes. The immediate interventions from now to January 2025. The following measures have been approved by government for implementation by the ministry to avert a food security crisis. With immediate effect, government is placing a ban on the export of grains, including maize, rice, soya bean, until the situation normalizes. This measure is essential to ensure the availability of these critical crops on the domestic market. Any farmer with stock and interested in selling should contact our district directorates across the country, our district aggregators, or the Directorate of Crops, Ministry of Agriculture. This is to ensure that farmers do not suffer adversely from this ban. As earlier mentioned, the affected regions contribute over 62% of our grain supply. With the projected shortfall in grain supply, government will tap into the ECOWAS grain reserve and partner with the private sector to bridge the gap. Government will also bring in 300,000 to provide affected vulnerable farmers with some food grant to enable them meet their minimum nutritional requirement. Input support, seed replanting assistance. For farmers whose crops have failed due to the lack of rain, we will be launching a replanting support program. This will include the provision of fast maturing seeds that can still be planted within the remaining window of the season. Farmers who need to replant will also be provided with grant fertilizers to ensure that they can still achieve a reasonable yield. Planting for Food and Jobs is focused on input credit, but for the affected farmers who have lost their investment, we need to run a blend, and the government intervention will be to provide them with some input grant, and they also have access to the input credit. This will help mitigate the financial burden on farmers who are facing additional costs due to the dry spell. Let me also mention that there will be a boost in input support for farmers in the southern sector to maximize their production in the minor season. It is important that we do this to bridge so that we can reduce the food that we intend to bring in. So if we can boost production in the southern sector, which planting season is starting now, it will help us reduce the food that we intend to bring in. Farmer relief support. The following interventions will also be targeted at farmers to bring them relief, which is activating all our extension officers across the country and the private sector aggregators extension officers on ground to help with the proper agronomic and soil conservation practices to help retain soil moisture and give the crops the best chance to survive. To avert future reoccurrence, the ministry, through the Food Systems Resilience Project, is working with GMET to provide agro-meteorological forecasts and advisories for agriculture. Let me mention that one of the things that affected, even though we communicated to farmers in a way, not every farmer was able to get the information. And so what we are experiencing, what we are seeing now on the ground is that the planting season has been delayed by 1 month because the meteorological information could not reach farmers. Many farmers planted and therefore got caught up in this challenge that we are in. So we have acquired 20 automatic weather stations for GMET, which will be installed at key locations nationwide. We recognize, in conclusion, we recognize that the ultimate and sustainable solutions to the current situation, which is a reflection of the inherent risk of climate change, is the provision of irrigation and water management systems that support all year-round farming. To this end, government shall mobilize the required resources to complete all irrigation projects under the Agricultural Economic Enclaves Program, as well as the completion of all irrigation projects in the pipeline. We have on the screen some images of the situations up north, if you can continue scrolling. So this is a farm, a wilted maize farm in Pandai in the Oti region. This farm is more than 100 acres. And this is what you see as the sort of height of the farm. Sorry, Pandai in northern region. This is a 2-month-old maize plant, 2 months. I want to show you a 500-acre rice farm in the Bunu East region, near a village called Jatokrom, close to Kentampo. This is a 500-acre rice farm, completely destroyed. The next image is a 1,000-acre farm. Next, please. Next. 1,000-acre maize farm, completely destroyed. This is 2 months old. The maize that you see is 2 months old, completely gone. So you can imagine if you're a farmer and you've made this investment, totally, and they look, even at 2 months, they look green, but it's all gone. It's all gone. It's quite a sad situation. There's a next gentleman on a rice farm.
Earlier on my wall, located in between Jeffy.
Very well. We will have all these images and videos on the MOFA portal, on the GAP portal, if you are interested in downloading them. Our PRO will also make soft copies for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for the swift action taken and for that impressive presentation. Clearly, we are in good hands. It calls for worry But with the presentation you have made and all the measures you've put across, I am confident that we are in good hands. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister for Finance and Member of Parliament for Karaga constituency, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, for his remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, listening to the Minister for Food and Agriculture, he described the situation as a situational crisis. But what I saw when I visited the field with him really is a crisis. A crisis is a crisis. Because I spoke to the farmers directly, and I went to the farms. There is nothing left for the farmers. And given that the food from the north is what we consume from September thereabout to early in the year, it will just hit us very soon. And this is why I think it's a crisis. It's coming, as some people may see it, but others are already feeling it. And so it is important that government responds, and responds quickly. I did not only accompany the Minister for Agriculture, I also accompanied His Excellency the President to farms in the Tolang district. And I felt so sad about what the farmers expressed in their frustration, in their worry about where to get food to live on. Investments have been lost, and even with the rains, that prices are also going up. And so for those of us in charge of the management of the economy, we are directly affected from different perspectives. Number one, our focus as a government, having stabilized the economy, and we are seeing the macro fundamentals improving day by day, we decided that we will focus on growth, economic growth. And we saw the numbers last year, ending the year by 2.9% economic growth. First quarter of this year, achieving 4.7% growth. And we're expecting that this trend will continue to the end of the year. But the inflation, when you see food shortage, and therefore the effect on prices, you should expect that inflation will respond, and will respond in the way that you do not want. Then we are also talking about bringing in food for the market, and also to provide food reliefs. I'm here to discuss with the minister how we are going to source the food, a lot of our food. And so one other ways the economy may be affected is from the perspective of foreign exchange. People are complaining, the cedi is getting weaker, the crisis. And so, as the Honorable Minister for Food and Agriculture said, we are seeking to raise about $500 million US, the equivalent of 8 billion Ghana cedis, to fund the crisis response program. This is so much money. But we are doing this also at a time when our buffers are almost depleted. We are entering the 8th month or the 9th month of our fiscal year. The budget has been implemented so far for about 8 to 9 months. And you should expect that most of your financial buffers are not there any longer. So this is a difficulty, but we have to raise the funds. As a responsible government, as a sensitive government as we are, His Excellency the President has directed that we do everything within our power to find the money to fund the government response. So far, from the budget side, we have been able to secure up to $160 million. That's about 2.5 billion Ghana cedis. This is largely coming from the contingency fund, which our constitution established. And so we intend to trigger the processes for accessing the contingency fund. We are also doing what we call budgetary alignment to reallocate some funds that were originally meant for other purposes towards addressing the crisis. And so together, 2.5 billion Ghana cedis remobilized from the budget side. We also relying on our development partners, and we've had serious engagements with our development partners over the past 1 week or so. And within this short period, we can report that we are able to secure $155 million US. That is about 2.4 billion, almost 2.5 billion Ghana cedis. And so out of the 8 billion Ghana cedis we are seeking to mobilize, we can say that we have visibility on about 5 billion Ghana cedis that we want to use, and use it quickly to respond to this crisis. It may be interesting to also note that the part coming from the development partners, mainly led by the World Bank, will be used for measures such as the cash transfers and also to support input supplies, whilst we are seeking to use funds from the budget to bring in more food, more grains, rice, maize, etc., poultry feed for the market, and also to provide food relief to farmers. I should mention also that even though we can have visibility on about $315 million, the balance of about $185 million, we believe we can mobilize them as well. We can mobilize this money. If we have been able to mobilize $315 million, we should be able to mobilize $185 million, because some of the development partners are supporting in kind. If you quantify them in monetary terms, we should be able to get some money from that source. Others are coming in smaller bits. Multilaterals, bilaterals, international development partners, they are all responding to support Ghana address this challenge, because they all have been part of our development journey. Our journey to move away from the crisis we experienced in 2022 in particular. They have been part of this journey. And these are not development partners who are going to sit back for the economy, the gains we have made, to be reversed. And so We are working closely with them to ensure that we respond and respond adequately. Now, some people may be interested in accountability, because usually during crisis, some resources may not be utilized properly or may not be accounted for. We have heard about this in crisis after crisis. We are committed to ensuring transparency and accountability in the management of these resources that we are mobilizing to respond to this crisis. And to do this, we've set up a technical task force comprising development partners and government agencies of Finance Ministry, of Ministry of Food, and for the purpose. So I thank you for your attention, and I'll take any question that you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister for Finance. Sitting there watching both of you speak with so much empathy and thoughtfulness, I have no doubt in my mind that this too shall pass. I'm confident that you will do everything in your power to find. I saw your hand? Yes. And yes, okay. Okay, so we'll take the first four. I've seen 4 hands. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Atamensa from Ghana News Agency. The two ministers have painted a very bleak picture, and I'm so disappointed in the narration. Why am I disappointed? Because over the past 3 or 4 decades, environmental experts have predicted environmental challenges that will come because of the climate change. And so even in desert countries like United Arab Emirates, Israel, that are naturally located in desert areas, made provision to ensure food security. In Ghana, when the government took over, they came out with policies to ensure food security. One of them, one district, one dam.
So,
2 questions.
Oh, you've already asked 2. It is fair that you know that
neighboring West African countries, that country, we are very quick to unduly politicize virtually everything. So I would want to find out, but for us to succeed, all of us would have to come on board and collectively deal with the issues. So I want to know the measures you have put in place to ensure that you rally all Ghanaians behind the cause. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. There is 1 hand at the back. Okay, Nana, please, I'll come to you.
Good evening. My name is Sako Kraba. I work with the EIB Networks, Kasapa. Minister, I want to find out from you. Have you assessed the...
Okay, I can't see. Okay, Nana, your hand was up. And we'll responses and then come back to you.
My name is James Savage. I work with Joy News. I'll start with the Agri Minister. His presentation has been largely on the drought. We know that this is a twin disaster in the north. For instance, in the Upper East region and then the Northeast region, we have a flood resulting from the Bagri Dam. But there's not been any mention on that. Is this package he talked about going to tackle the flood issues as well? And key about that is the status of the Bagri Dam, if you would give us some updates on that as well. Then to the Finance Minister, one key issue that's come up, we would want to ask if he would respond to that, is the issues about judgment debt to Trafigura. If he can give us some details on that.
Please, respectfully, we invited you here to talk about...
affected farmers. And so if the money from the development partners is to go to support the cash transfer, I'm wondering how that can be distributed to members of the political party. In any case, let us understand that the people who are affected are not affected by party colors. They are affected by drought. They have no food to eat. hunger doesn't know political parties. And that of this country. And you will do well as well to get yourself involved when the distribution starts and report to the people of Ghana what you see. If there is any scheme to distribute these resources to members of one political party or another, or if party card will be the basis for identifying who benefits, media people have the right to report, as you have reported on many, many other issues in this country. I also answered the question on inflation in my remarks. Maybe my friend was late when I was talking about that. But really, I haven't seen the figures yet. The figures were produced by the Statistical Service, and we'll wait and see. But as an economist, and therefore when food prices are rising as a result of food shortage, the figures will show what the results will be. There are other factors that affect inflation, and so to the effect that the positive effect of those factors outweigh the negative effect of food prices, you still will, that concerned me, and the Minister for Agric will take the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. This looks like very friendly questions. One district, one dam. When my officer appeared before the Public Accounts Committee, which is the director of JIDA, he did mention and has provided locations of all the 574 dams that have been built. Each of them with an irrigable area of about 50. The dams cannot function to support. But if there's rain, then it can store some water and at least extend the cropping life of the irrigable area that the dams are situated. Yes, indeed, we have built 80 warehouses, 1,000 metric tons each. They are all over the country, about 69 of them completed. The remainder, maybe in about the next couple of months, they will be completed. We are putting an advert for private sector person. Of political season cash distribution. I think the finance minister has dealt with it. But let me also add that from August of last year to August of this year, we have done probably in one season the single largest distribution of inputs in Ghana. Check the records. The single largest distribution of inputs to our farmers have been done from last year August to this year August. Around the country, any district that program was politicized. No, you don't politicize food, and we have a record of that distribution. When we gave the inputs to the flood victims, we distributed about inputs to 20,000 people for the flood victims. Not a single person mentioned that it had been politicized. And the record is there to show that every single flood victim that was identified received the inputs. And we gave it to the districts, and not one person complained that the issue was politicized. When we gave the grant inputs for those who had registered on the GAP, not a single person can accuse the Ministry of Government or its persons of politicizing the distribution of grant inputs. When we distributed inputs to vulnerable farmers to be identified by members of parliament, we wrote a letter to parliament and gave every member of parliament to identify 100 vulnerable farmers that may have escaped us to go and receive these fertilizers. We didn't politicize it. We don't have the record of politicizing food in the last 12 months, and we will not start destroying that record now. GMO distribution, you can be sure that we exist to protect the country's food systems, and we will not adulterate it with anything that is not required to be in a system. Why did we not plan for today? And are we the only ones facing this situation? Just a simple Google will tell you what is happening in the sub-region. Just this year, Cote d'Ivoire banned the export of grains. Nigeria has banned the export of grains. Burkina has banned the export of grains. Some countries may not disclose their actions at all. I mean, imagine that we come and stand here, we don't announce the ban of the export of grains, but then when you reach the ports, you can't take it out. We have to be transparent with the people of Ghana in the actions that we want to take, and that is exactly what we're doing. We never experienced, we had a bumper last year, and if not for this situation, up until now, we've not really had any challenges with food, even today, except for the north that we're expecting the early maturing crops that are suffering now. In the southern sector, we don't have a challenge with food. Everything that we're talking about is what can affect us from September, October, when we expect the northern grains to hit the market. If they don't hit the market, then we will have food challenges. And that is what we are working now to ensure that by end of September, October, there's enough food in the system to stabilize the situation. We have mentioned about the politicization of the crisis. That will not be the case. The country is assured that we are here to help our citizens. We don't have that record of politicizing our food systems, and we shall not start. The cost has been dealt with by the finance minister. There was a question on climate change. The question if we will include the opposition in the implementation of the program. Any Ghanaian willing and able to help. This is a major operation of food relief. It is a major operation on grant distribution of inputs. Any Ghanaian that wants to help, any conduit that wants to support, except the politicization or the tribalization, or however you want to call these things, that will not be allowed. But anybody that wants to help in this operation to make sure that we have provided relief to our Ghanaians who have been affected, we've opened our doors to do that. Finally, on the Bagri Dam, it depends on how the spillage is conducted by our neighboring country. When they have a huge challenge and they open the dam full throttle, then we have a major effect down south. But if it is regulated, then our rivers are able to contain it. But then the spillage in itself, you know, we have a lot of dams that are able to absorb some of contain some of the water, mitigating the effect of the spillage. And that is a communication that has gone on between Ghana and our neighboring country. That we cannot stop them from spilling, but we can engage them on how they spill so that it doesn't affect the fellow humans that are down south. And that is the engagement that has gone on. So we are seeing, I mean, sometimes we engage them, but then the situation up there compels them to open full throttle, and then we suffer. We are monitoring the situation. We are working with our neighbors to ensure that effects on our farmers are minimized. Other than that, it will further compound the challenge
of farmers across the country. And the data was sourced from the farmers themselves. They have a system, an online system, people have to go and register. And that was the basis for the distribution of the inputs that the minister talked about from August till date. And so, if you're asking whether the opposition will be involved, what I plan to do as a member of parliament, right from this announcement, I'm going to my constituency to tell my people who have not registered, who are not on that data, the farmers who are not on that data, to go and register. And it's online. We are asking through LEAP, Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty. Again, the database is already there, and the database has been sourced over time. Again, not on the basis of party affiliation. And so, this country, we politicize everything. Every well-intended program, we politicize. I didn't expect questions on politicization here. So we are talking serious issues. It's about the livelihoods. And we are using systems to ensure that we are somehow scientific in our approach. Because I know that most people may not be on this database because they are not educated. And so what we need to do to help our people as members of parliament from the majority minority.
We are giving an input to a farmer. That input must be given on the farm. Okay, if you give an input outside of the polygon of your farm, it will not capture as delivered. Unless it is, in this case, this crisis or the flood reliefs. It also allows for us to monitor our extension officers. You have to go to a farmer's farm once a month. Okay, once a week. You can sit in your office and send me a report here that this week, present. We don't want that. You have to take the tablet and be in the polygon zone, okay, and submit that you have been there. That is how we will know that you have actually visited the farm. So it is a very, very comprehensive system. To register self-service, go to ghaap.com and register. And then the district office will follow up with you, go and take the map of your farm. If you are, in fact, for you to be part of this, receive a grant under this crisis, you will have to also attach an image of yourself standing in the polygon. So you cannot just register and go and take a football pack and submit to us. It won't work. Okay? Just as the images are shown on the screen.
Mine is not a question, but to add up to what Minister said. Okay. I am a district chief executive. With the grant fertilizer, when I received mine, I actually wanted to know how many of my people are benefiting. And we had 620. And I can confidently stand here and tell you that not even up to 120 people are from my party. So just to add up to Minister that it is something that is open for everyone to register. So there's nothing like party colors attached to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I saw Echo's hand, and then, okay.
Okay, Honorable Minister, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is not going to do the syndication anymore. Although that 2 billion annual average was supporting the economy and the currency. Honorable, what are you doing with cocoa, and why have you stopped the syndication? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. There was another hand at the back. Okay, and then this gentleman, before I take the last questions from you. Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Edward Akwa from Republic Press. My question has to do with, just last week we heard about the Bagrin Dam spillage, and some farms have been submerged. At least we wanted a report on that issue as well, because most of these farms were affected in a way. So if any issue or if any information about that, please.
Thank you. There was a hand here, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Danilo Dromes. I work with CTFM and Channel 1 TV. My question is, how many farmers have been registered under the PFJ 2.0? And I also want to find out the issue about there's been the concern that the issue about the role of aggregators being taken over by DCEs and all that. I wanted to find out from the ministry what it is doing to address that. And then also the purchase of the 20 workstations for the Ghana Meteorological Agency. How sustainable is this initiative by the ministry?
Thank you. So we'll take the last round of follow-ups. Yes.
Yes. I want to clarify the question I asked. I'm not saying that you are going to give to B and leave A or do discrimination, but I'm saying that during COVID, the money that came into government, people were saying that the government used some of the money for other purposes. In fact, they were even asking for accountability. That is why I'm looking for the input of other political parties so that they will be in the known and see whatever happens. Anyway, our Agri Minister, there's a glut of tomato price of tomatoes. I know Krishi plants tomatoes, onions, pepper, mango. That's where I'm coming from. So I know the terrain very well. And what are you going to do, as it were, to address some of these glut? Because the farmers are crying. When we are crying for shortage of food up north, they're also crying for glut of food down south in Krishi.
Okay. Yeah. So you take Atamensa and then you take Clifford, or whoever you take first.
Yeah. So, Honorable Minister, given the porous nature of our borders, how are we going to enforce the ban of export? Do we have any policing mechanisms to ensure that people comply with the ban? Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Atamensa, once again, from GNA. Yes, I want to find out, during the COVID time, the ministry set up a farmers center at the ministry, where the ministry sells food directly to the citizens at a cheaper rate.
Okay.
And when there was food crisis, it doesn't affect only the crop farmers, it affects every household. Okay. So I want to find out if there's any plan of maybe setting up district centers where people can go there to buy food at a cheaper rate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Minister, you got that. He said during COVID and at a time that food prices went up, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture carted food to some centers so that people can get food, cheap food to buy. Are you considering that? Okay, so I take that to be the last question. I will invite the honorable ministers back for their responses and concluding remarks. Okay.
So I have one question, a very simple question on syndication. And I want to refer you to a press release by Cocoa Board, which indicated that they were not abandoning syndication. The syndication negotiations are ongoing, except that it will not raise the total amount required to purchase cocoa. A syndication, if you want further information, I can tell you that it is not bringing in more than 600 million US. Meanwhile, the RF, the request for proposal, was up to 1.5 billion US. And so it is not being abandoned. It is being pursued side by side with alternative ways of raising funds to buy cocoa. Thank you.
Thank you. You have dragged me to respond. Ordinarily, I came to observe and support my colleague. So good afternoon. So I want to assure you to the nation that the security agencies are immediately activating their network to ensure that the ban on cereals, which has been listed, are regularly enforced so that nobody will take even a single grain out. We have the approved routes and the unapproved routes. About 80% to 90% of all exports pass through the approved routes. And so I just want to assure you that already we have a lot of security personnel from today would ensure that no truck loads of grains will leave Ghana across to anywhere. the unapproved routes, we will also get all the security agencies to ensure that even the 20% does not leave our nation. It helps us as well because we have a big problem, which is the terrorist attacks all over across the other side. So if the ban is put in place, it's enabling us to deploy actively along the borders. It will help. But security is as good as the citizens themselves. So please take advantage of, if you see something, say something, and help the security agencies as well. You yourself are security people yourselves. So as long as you see something that has escaped the eagle eye of the security, please let us know. We'll act well. We are deploying all across the borders, particularly the northern part. We are also to the east and the south. And so we'll ask citizens to support the security agencies, that if for some reason there is some unapproved route or approved route, or somebody sees something that is going on that is not nice, please let us know so that we can act appropriately. It's for the good of all of us that we should not...
of farmlands. So this is like, I mean, we can drill down to a farmer, you see the size of the farm. We are employing satellite data to be able to zoom into the farm and see the activities of the farm. The president has directed, the president has directed that we engage a company called planet.com so that we can have a view on everybody's farm. So when you scroll down you see where it says pending farmer registration. It means all those who have registered on the GAP, but their farms have not been validated. The polygon map of the farms have not been taken. You will see that also there. So, and we have the graphs by farmers per region, with the northern region giving us the highest number of registered farmers. We also have an inventory of all the stock of fertilizer that we have in the country. On the GAP, we are able to track every single fertilizer in the country. So all the input suppliers that we have in the country, when you bring your fertilizer, you report to us, and we help manage the inventory, because at any point in time, we need to know the stock of fertilizers or agro inputs that we have in the country. We have also the number of farmers per commodity. And you see that maize is the most cropped item of farmers in this country. We have it by gender, by household, whatever statistical rule that you want to derive from this, we're able to pull that information from you. Is that it from this side? You can? Okay, so great. So with this system also, we are able to tell from the beginning of the planting season what the output of grains is going to be at the end of the planting season. Because we know the fertilizer that we have given you, we know the seed that we have given you, we know the yield of the seed, we know when you planted, we know when you will harvest, and aggregate. We are able to put together, say that the northern sector, from the start of the planting season to the end of the planting season, this is the total number of grains that we have. And if we have excess capacity, we are able to invite our neighboring countries to officially apply through the government to get the excess grains from the buffer stock. That is the precision agriculture that we are talking about, to be able to ensure that agriculture is organized in a proper way. Our humble gentleman from GNA, Atamensa, I see that you took the counsel of the finance minister seriously, because your question now came with a very humbling tone. That is how life works. Yes, it's okay. At least you have been advised and you took it. I like people like that. Now, Ghanaians buying tomatoes from Burkina Faso is a challenge for all of us, because right across the border is massive tomato production backed by heavy investment in irrigation. We are trying to reverse the course to put in more investment in Tamni Tono, especially in the northern sector, to allow for tomato production in these areas. Until such a time, it's not a problem. But don't forget that they also buy a lot of grains from us. So now we are buying tomatoes from Burkina. Admittedly, we don't want it that way, but they are also buying a lot of tomatoes, grains from us. Probably almost 60-70% of the grains that they consume there is produced by us. They are buying a lot of soya from us. So that in itself, trading is not a bad thing. What the complaint is that we have the capacity to produce tomatoes. So why are we not leveraging on that? We are working on it. Okay, we are working on it, and we will get there. Now, we export a lot of yam in the whole world. We are the largest exporter of yam, not the largest producers. That is Nigeria, but nobody exports more yam than we do. But I don't think that the countries that are receiving our yams are going to go on demonstrations because they are getting yams from Ghana. All Ghanaians are saying is that we have the capacity to produce tomatoes. Let's get on with it. And that is exactly what we're doing. From Plains, you know, I'm from that part of town. You know, since I have been Agric Minister, we have put 3 billion Ghana cedis in irrigation schemes in our farm plains alone. A chairman from Kunedu, Ataniata, Atonsu, all the way to such a farm plains. 3 billion Ghana cedis in irrigation infrastructure. And if I knew you were going to ask me questions outside of the crisis, I'm sure I would have brought you some pictures. But you can come to the office tomorrow, and I'll show you the investment that we are putting in the farm plains in the last 12 months. And that is the reason why we know that in 3-4 years, there's going to be a lot of grains coming from the schemes that we are building in our farm plains. And that is why we are putting up the 60,000 metric ton grain silo right around there. Okay, fortunately, it's in my constituency. I'm very, very happy about that. You know, that's why we are citing it there to be able to hold the strategic grain stock. So a lot is going on in our farm plains. We should feel the impact very soon. I did talk extensively about the Bagri Dam, so I don't want to go repeating myself. How sustainable is equipment that we are giving to GMET? We have a program for called FSRP, Food Systems Resilience program, which program has a heavy concentration on climate issues. And locally, the organization that can provide localized weather information is our GMET. They are constrained, and therefore we approach them to get them the equipment that they need to provide us the synthesized data that we need. Because we cannot operate weather stations, automated weather stations. We can't operate them. The data that will come out of it, we will not even understand them in the way that it comes. But they can take the devices, synthesize it, and then give us the output that we are able to push to our farmers on the gap. If you have registered on the gap and you go to the farmer module, you see that there's a portion for weather information. And we are also now going to push to them on SMS and voice notes for those who cannot, who are not lettered, to be able to listen to, this is the start of the planting season, this is it. All the information is going to be pushed to our farmers now that we have the gap. There was also a question of DCEs taking over aggregator functions. That is not true, can never be true, will not happen, we will not accept it. What is happening is that we have 261 districts, but we have been able to confirm, validate, and employ 64 aggregators. So the districts that we don't have aggregators, we've asked the district directors of agriculture, not DCEs, district directors of agriculture, to hold place as aggregators, so that if you're a farmer in this area and you apply for input, we will channel the input to the district director of agriculture to be given to the farmer, not the district chief executive. I want to know one DCE who is acting as an aggregator in this country, not one. And every political actor in this country belongs to a district, and they can confirm to you that it has never happened. 2, we sent grant fertilizers to 3 actors in this country. The first actor is the DCE, sort of the common fund system, that you are close to the people. There may be some vulnerable farmers who have not been captured on the gap. Go give them these fertilizers and capture them. We gave these 100 farmers to every DCE in this country, and it was documented. 2, we called members of parliament and issued an official letter to every member of parliament. I personally gave the copy of the minority to Atoforsin myself, and I can show you on your phone, and he acknowledged it. You take that letter to the assembly and you collect your grant fertilizer to give to vulnerable farmers that the member of parliament has identified. 275 of them. I got one too. You register the farmers on the gap. We also gave 15 farmers to the district director of agriculture. So we ensure that there's a fair playing field, no politics in the food business, at least in the food production business in this matter. So there's nowhere in this country that DCE are acting as aggregators. In the unlikely event that there is such, it has not come to our notice. None of my officers have reported same, but trust me, we'll deal with it very, very rapidly and aggressively so. The defense minister has taken the question on security. We have dams, 574 of them. I did mention that if there's no rain, you see, irrigation schemes are different from dams. On irrigation schemes, you are drawing the water from major rivers. Irrigation director, that's right. Let me try and use your, good. Irrigation schemes, you are drawing the water from major water bodies into your dams. That is different from the community dams that we built that are harvesting rain. So if there is a dry spell, you don't expect the dams to function because there's no water. That is really what we are talking about. So know the difference. I had to educate myself, and I believe that with these words, you stand educated. Okay? If there is no water, the dams cannot survive. But if there's rain, we can harvest the water, and it will hold the water for a much longer time than allowing it to just run off. That is the difference between these dams and the irrigation schemes like we're trying to do in Afam Plains, in Tono, in Via, Tamni, Botanga, and now in Afam Plains. Will we employ food centers as we did under the Planting for Food and Jobs Phase 1, where we brought in food from buffer areas to distribute to? We shall not do that. That is not what we seek to do. Most of the foods that we will bring in will be on the markets, except the ones that are going to go to the affected farmers. Even they will pick from the established vendors who have shops throughout the country. So we don't intend to set up special joints or shops or the likes to redistribute food. It's going to be a receipt system. If you have been identified on the gap, you pick your receipt, you go to the shop, you pick your assigned product, and really that is what it is. I hope I have successfully answered. Yes. You know, I mentioned that we are putting a silo for grains in Fifi. We are also putting in pack houses. We are putting, how many pack houses are we putting in Fifi? 2. We are putting 2 pack houses in the area. I mean, since in fact, it's my constituency. So the decision to put 2 pack houses there was very, very easy to make. But as you know, it is a heavy tomato and onion producing area. We have a lot of post-harvest losses from that side, and we are putting in these pack houses to ensure that we don't suffer these post-harvest losses. I hope I have been able to answer your questions, and with my colleague ministers. Me pese Madam Wasi say Mwababi tie asupem Ghana phone na atorenchem kese e na ato yekuafo ewo atifi mantem a free esrem eba bono eko oti yekuafo a ewo ho omo normal ye a woni dua ye eye free June ebesi August nini na ashe nobaya omudua ye no nsuo entimi ameguso ama eka kese na aba saa semi ya aba betu akuafo yi enye omo pe na eba be ha omo eba be ha Ghanafo nyina ewo yedua ne semu ebi se America kra ya ye kwakoduru akobro nyamu no enuane a yedi eye ebro emo ne niema no dodo na efri eho ena eba ena asem kese we so ayeden aba bebom aban intimi ntena ho enhwe efi se akuafo no wonu sika wonu di share adwumanim no sika no ayeden ahye mfasoa ewo so oninya no enya ade ebeba aduane a esanka wonu eti wonu no ba ya woni bedi no so no eno so a abawom enti asem kese ya bei na wo se aban etu ho anamon makwa akohwe mene finance minister isika kura for akwakohwe omampani ankasa so nani akwakohwe den akwakohwe asem no enya asem papa nti nhihye ya aban eye no se free enne ede kono obia opese ode aduane a yaye o Ghana ha etichiru ni ebro ana de friend grains ebro emo soya sorghum millet free oman no mu eko amanone no enya ade a yebepene no yepese ye make sure say aduane ewo krom ha etosumienu akuafo na woni no baye ahye a woni ntimi enya aduane enni no ekwan enam akwanya eda ho aban edi aduane so yeden eba bebre akuafo no se aduane a yedi bre akuafo no so no yedi bi beba krom ama aduane a anka ho ba be yeden no ho enya den saa niema we na ni ehwe anim se beba September eni eko October no nti ye ne se ne be ya saa mre no du a onfa ohaw bia emre Ghanafo nsuo no asate eto efi na wotwe etwa mu yi enne kura me no ka se nsuo to ewo esremu enti no ye ba be ma akuafo no ebro a woni betimi adua omo betimi adua emo no so ye de be ma omo de efe no early maturing seeds any akande bia eka ho eye fertilizer a woni behia de aboa se ne be ya ye betimi enye aduane afri ho no so no aban de nam kwan so a yeba wonu a woni no baye no ahye kra woni sika woni dwetire so abowo mo no aban de sika kakra 1000 Ghana cedis hectare ba kubia 1000 Ghana cedis se wa register wo gap no so Ghana agriculture agribusiness platform Ghana ni kuani bia a oben oye kua a oben district directors of agric no onim sa ade we unim so a ko agric impenifo ho ewo district na yemefa wo details na yemfa wafuo no no omo de abefo mfidie besusu ɛfoɔ ni nyinaa na wɔmɛka edin a yɛwɔ ɛyɛ akuafoɔ ɛwɔ district no na yɛhwɛ mu na sɛ onɔbaeɛ no ahye a aban ɛbɛpɛ sika kakra ɛde ama wo ɛno no yɛsɛ 1,000 Ghana cedis per hectare ɛyɛ 2.5 acres biara no yɛde bɛboa akuafoɔ wei ɛne nneɛma bebree a aban ɛde ba abɛbɛboa Ghana man sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ atorɛnkyɛm ɛnha yɛduanesɛm ɛwɔ Ghana nyinaa anaasɛ ɛnha akuafoɔ nankasa ɛwɔ wɔn abrabɔ mu yɛgu so a yɛtietie na sɛ ɛba sɛ wɔ sɛ yɛsesa mmoa no anaa yɛde bi ka ho a kwan biara so finance minister ababɛgyina ha ahyɛ yɛbɔ sɛ deɛ ɛwɔ sɛ wɔyɛ biara ɔmampanin sɛ ɔhwehwɛ saa mmoa no na ɔmfa mmoa akuafoɔ na ɔmfa mmoa Ghana aduadesɛm nti yɛwɔ mu gyidie sɛ aban bɛyɛ biribiara de aboa yɛ ministryfoɔ a wɔwɔ Ghana ha nyinaa ne yɛ ministryfoɔ a ɛwɔ ha yɛaka a yɛntom abom sɛ atorɛnkyɛm no yɛmfa nyɛ amanyɔsɛm na yɛbɛmaki sure sɛ obiara deɛ ɛwɔ sɛ obiara onye biara no ɔbɛnya na amanyɔfoɔ ne amanyɔsɛm ntwɛm ho mfiri yɛduanesɛm mu na ɔmo a ɔmo hia mmoa no mmoa no nkɔ ɔmo hɔ yɛda Ghanafoɔ nyinaa ase.
Honorable Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our friends from the media, thank you so much for making time for this afternoon's press briefing. This brings us to the end of the program. Our